Good Monday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now, a fight for everyone. The strongest show of support yet from the U.S. in Ukraine. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi makes a surprise trip to Kyiv as the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit during Russia's invasion.
We are visiting you to say thank you for your fight for freedom, that we are on a frontier of freedom, and that your fight is a fight for everyone.
Plus, breaking overnight, Mariupol under fire, the renewed battle in the besieged city as rescuers work to evacuate hundreds of civilians. We have team coverage this morning. New wave, a grim prediction in the world's fight against COVID. The new warning this morning, why Americans should brace for a significant surge this summer. Plus, the extreme measures being taken in Beijing ahead of a typically busy 5-day holiday. Rematch, Amazon taking on union organizers again. The ballots are in for another landmark labor vote, and now the results are being counted. Why the outcome could undo last month's historic election. And Furry Flight, it's wheels up, paws up for dozens of lucky dogs. We'll take you on board for a very special rescue mission to get man's best friend into their forever homes. That is a really sweet story, and it's so good to be back with you.
Good to have you back with us after your ventures around the country.
We've been apart for quite some time now. Good to be here. Happy to have you with us at home, too. And we begin this morning in Ukraine and those efforts to get people out of the besieged city of Mariupol.
Just this morning, more people were rescued and taken out of the city. It's part of a broader mission by Ukraine's government and the United Nations. Now, the goal for rescuers is to reach Mariupol's steel plant, where up to 1,000 civilians have been taking shelter. As of this morning, nearly 80 people have been rescued from the plant. This comes after a surprise visit to Kyiv from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She's now the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit the Ukrainian capital and meet with President Volodymyr Zelensky. And new this morning, U.S. officials are planning another major trip to Eastern Europe, this one with First Lady Jill Biden. She'll travel to Slovakia and Romania later this week, meeting with Ukrainian mothers and children who've escaped their war-torn home. We have team coverage this morning. Former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine John Herbst will join us in a minute, but let's begin with NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley in Ukraine and NBC News reporter Julie Sirkin. Matt, let's start with you. How are those evacuation efforts in Mariupol going this morning?
Well, we heard that, there are some evacuation efforts. I actually spoke with someone who I've been talking to, a fighter from the Azov battalion, who's in that Azovstal steel foundry. He's underneath it with all those civilians. He said that if the Russians keep their promise, that we could start seeing some people coming from Azovstal as early as today. Instead, here in Zaporizhia, in this parking lot, and we're here, it's like a big box store. It's a huge shopping center, of the kind you'd see in the States, just about outside of any major city in America. But this center for people who are coming not just from Mariupol, that besieged city, but from many other destinations. And here, just in the last couple minutes, we've had one car pull up. Now, I'm not with my translator at this very moment because really this did just happen in the last 5 or 10 minutes. But as you can see, this car has all the trademarks. They're speaking to the police officer here, has all the trademarks of someone, of a family who has come out of one of these areas. Now, they could have come from somewhere near Mariupol. They could have come from somewhere in this area, in Zaporizhia. They would still be having, as you can see, white flags on their mirrors, on their antenna. This is to show the Russians or the Ukrainians that they are, in fact, non-combatants and that they should not be fired upon. I got to tell you guys, we've been seeing cars everywhere we go that have been totally shelled out, that have been riddled with bullets and shrapnel, that still carry those telltale signs of civilian occupants, white flags and hand-painted signs that say Dieti, Russian for children. And that's really sad when you see that, when cars that have that sign that says Dieti on them that have been riddled with bullets and shrapnel, and we see that all over the place. This car seems to have gone away. Didn't see the rest of our media colleagues, of whom there are hundreds around here. We didn't see them flocking to speak to them. We can find out later who they were. It doesn't look like they were from Mariupol, and they certainly were not from that Azovstal steel plant, because everybody here is waiting to see people from Azovstal. But we are still waiting. We could see them later today, from what I understand. We might have to wait until tomorrow. Guys?
So interesting to see that unfold right there on live TV, Matt. So, Julie, I want to ask you, as this mass evacuation in Mariupol, it shows the magnitude of the growing refugee crisis from the war. And this morning we learned First Lady Jill Biden, she's going to meet with refugees along the Ukrainian border later this week. How long is this trip going to be? Who is she planning to meet with?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. First Lady Jill Biden will make only her second solo trip, foreign trip, I should add, as First Lady. She will basically be taking a long weekend in the region, visiting Slovakia and Romania, two bordering countries to Ukraine, who have taken in hundreds of thousands of refugees. You see her schedule up on your screen. She'll leave on Thursday from Washington. She will meet with U.S. service members in Romania the next day. She will then go to the capital of Romania, Bucharest, to meet with U.S. embassy staff and humanitarian workers. Then she will meet with refugees along the Slovakia-Ukraine border, followed by a visit with Slovakian government officials. What is not publicly on this trip or privately known is whether she will actually visit Ukraine. Now, that's not something that we expect to know, even if she will make a surprise visit there. Of course, it's not unusual for first ladies to make visits to combat zones. Usually that happens when there are U.S. troops involved, but obviously an event, a war of this magnitude, has seen U.S. officials, from Speaker Pelosi to Defense Secretary Austin, visit the region in recent weeks so the U.S. can continue to show their support for Ukrainians in this fight.
We know, as we mentioned this last weekend, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she became the highest-ranking U.S. official to meet with President Zelensky in Kyiv. So what happened during the meeting, and does it signal more U.S. aid, or that potentially President Biden will be coming to Ukraine?
Yeah, we were all surprised when we found out that Speaker Pelosi was in Kyiv. We only found out due to security reasons after she had already met with President Zelensky. She reaffirmed the U.S. support for Ukraine. She, as you mentioned, became the highest ranking U.S. official to make the visit to the region. Actually, she just wrapped up a visit with the Polish president as well, reaffirming U.S. support for Ukraine in this fight. Now, this comes as President Biden made that massive $33 billion aid request to Congress. So when Speaker Pelosi comes back to Washington, she'll have to work with Majority Leader Schumer in the Senate to try and get that through. It has broad bipartisan support. It's a big, big package, $20 billion, going to the military in Ukraine. The rest split between humanitarian and economic development assistance. Now, you mentioned President Biden. That's another one. I mean, he's still weighing whether to visit the region. We have not heard whether he has plans to do so. Of course, due to security reasons, we probably wouldn't know until the very last minute. But as of now, no plans to do that, Joe.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. And also thank you to Matt Browley joining us from Ukraine.
Let's now get more on this with John Herbst. He's the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine and a senior director of the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. Ambassador, thanks for being with us this morning. So let's start right there with Speaker Pelosi's visit. We keep mentioning the highest-ranking U.S. official. In fact, the Speaker of the House is behind only the vice president in the line of succession. To you, what message does this send, that this particular person in this particular position has visited Ukraine? Also, what's the message to Russia?
Look, I'm delighted to see the speaker in Ukraine. It's a strong signal of American support to the Ukrainian people, President Zelensky. And of course, it's another caution to Putin that the United States is all in short of sending its troops to Ukraine to help Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression. That $33 billion package is a major new development.
And Ambassador, let's talk about what's happening on the ground. The Ukrainian army said that a Russian offensive along a broad front in the country's east has been stalling. Now, I mean, right now there appears to be no end in sight for this war, but is there a point where it becomes no longer tenable for Putin, not only financially, but because of the loss of troops when they're just not gaining ground?
We'll know in a few weeks if this second new offensive is going to work for Putin. Right now, it does not seem to be going very well. It seems to be stalled. They've made minor progress, but stalled across the broad front. If that fails, Putin faces a very serious decision. He's been calling this a special military operation. He can call it a war and conscript people across Russia for a great new escalation. I'm not sure he'll do that, but it cannot be ruled out.
Now, conversely, the U.S. has committed billions in Ukrainian aid. How long should our country be committed to funding Ukraine if this does really not have an end in sight? If, as you said, in the next few weeks, there's sort of this evaluation that goes on, does our support continue until this ends?
I think this is the only smart policy we've got. If Putin wins in Ukraine, if he succeeds in conquering Ukraine, subjugating the country, he'll go farther. and farther might well be our Baltic NATO allies, where we are committed by treaty to send troops to defend those countries. And those countries are far harder to defend than Ukraine. So sending even many billions of dollars to Ukraine actually is very important to American security. It's a good bargain for us.
Ambassador, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Here at home, the focus is on a key primary race tomorrow. In Ohio, a crowded field of Republicans, they're vying to fill the state's open U.S. Senate seat. The race is drawing some high-profile endorsements, including, of course, from former President Trump, whose influence as a GOP kingmaker is going to be put to the test. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has been following it all as part of our ongoing County to County series. He now joins us from Columbus, Ohio. Jesse, good morning to you. Quickly set the stage. What should we know about the top contenders and their campaigns?
Good morning, Joe. Well, the two top camps, J.D. Vance, who has former President Trump's endorsement, and Josh Mandel, the former state treasurer here in Ohio, are leaning into Trump ideas. So even though Mandel doesn't have Trump's endorsement, he's styling himself as a pro-Trump candidate. And while he doesn't have the former president's endorsement, he has a big name supporter of his own, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. So lots of national focus here in the Buckeye State right now.
So, Jesse, President Trump has often touted the power of his endorsement. He surprisingly endorsed Vance, once a self-proclaimed never Trump guy. So what does this race mean for Trump and really his political future, especially as a kingmaker?
Yeah, Joe, this is shaping up to be a legacy moment, and that's exactly what the former president's top surrogate, Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, told me when we talked with him at a J.D. Vance event over the weekend, because he has put his thumbs on the scale here, but at the same time, it hasn't cleared the floor. Josh Mandel is within the margin of error up against J.D. Vance in the latest Fox News poll. So these two continue to go head to head. And even though Mandel doesn't have Trump's endorsement, because he's leaning to Trump's style, Trump's rhetoric, Trump's ideas, there's this idea that Trump could win even if his candidate doesn't. Here's what we heard from the campaigns over the weekend.
The name Trump is much more than an endorsement for you in this campaign, it sounds like.
Well, it's a governing philosophy. America first is a governing philosophy. When it comes to the economy, when it comes to jobs in our state.
We don't want a circumstance where the establishment could claim that they defeated Trump. So President Trump's brand is on the line, the MAGA brand is on the line, and we couldn't be prouder that J.D. Vance is a standard bearer for our movement.
And so again, Joe, they're framing this as a change of course potentially in the GOP, or staying the course, but a pivotal moment for Republican politics.
And Jesse, we talk about polls. Recent polls show about a quarter of voters there haven't made up their minds yet. So they're the ones who could swing this thing. You spoke with some of them. What are the issues that matter to them, and do these endorsements matter to them at all?
Yeah, the short answer to that is not really. They seem to be leaning more into policy positions. That's not to say that some aren't engaging with the policy positions coming from Vance and Mandel, but some of these voters we've talked to are tuning out the endorsements, whoever it is. And we've talked to people who are independent, people who consider themselves moderate, people who consider themselves Trump supporters. And pretty much across the board in those groups, in those cross sections, we've again and again heard people wanting to hear about specific issues that they care about. And just one other point I want to emphasize there about that quarter of voters believed to be undecided. That's from that recent Fox News poll. That number is virtually unchanged from a month earlier, which means that even after Donald Trump and Ted Cruz came in with their big endorsements here, about a quarter of GOP primary voters, according to Fox News, continued to stay undecided, which lends itself to that idea that the endorsements don't matter next to speaking to specific policy issues.
All right, Jesse, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And turning now to the latest in the fight against COVID, the FDA announced plans to meet over several days in June to consider authorizing COVID vaccines for children as young as 6 months. Those plans come as both cases and hospitalizations rise across the country ahead of the summer months. Dr. Amish Adalja joins us now for more. He's a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Doctor, always great to have you with us. So what is the likelihood here for these vaccines with children getting approved when the FDA meets next month? What could their potential impact be on kids protecting against COVID? And for anyone who's wondering about that timeline, why is it happening in June instead of sometime sooner?
I think it will be a great thing when we have more people eligible to be vaccinated. However, if you look at the uptake of the vaccine in the 5 to 11 group, which is the next age group, it hasn't been really great. Maybe about a quarter of those children got vaccinated. So I don't expect to see a major uptick in vaccinations after this approval, and I suspect it will be successful. But I think it does help, especially with high-risk children. And the more vaccine we have in people, the better it is. And I hope that Moderna is ready even before June and the FDA is able to act expeditiously. I don't think they should bureaucratically coordinate Moderna and Pfizer's application. Whatever's ready should be reviewed when it's ready.
Dr. Adalja, I want to turn now to comments by Dr. Deborah Birx. She was on the COVID task force in the Trump administration. She had this to say about the possibility of another COVID surge on the horizon. Let's listen.
Each of these surges are about 4 to 6 months apart. That tells me that natural immunity wanes enough in the general population after 4 to 6 months that a significant surge is going to occur again. And this is what we have to be prepared for in this country. We should be preparing right now for a potential surge in the summer across the southern United States, because we saw it in 2020 and we saw it in 2021.
Doctor, do you share those concerns? Do you think another surge is likely given these mandates that we've seen rolled back and that immunity waning? And are you concerned about the severity, or are we getting to a place where these surges are easier for us to handle?
We're getting to a place where the surges are easier to handle because they're increasingly delinked and decoupled from hospitalizations, meaning that the virus is facing a population that has a lot of immunity. Even if that immunity is waned and allows new variants to be able to infect people, it's unlikely to be able to cause enough illness that would overload hospitals again. So I think that means that we're in a better place. And remember, we also have tools like monoclonal antibodies and antivirals as well. But yes, we're going to see cases go up and down. This virus isn't going anywhere. And the key is to make sure that people are not getting hospitalized by using all the tools that we have.
Also, Doctor, we're now seeing countries in Europe roll back their travel restrictions and some of their mandates ahead of the busy tourist season. Is now the right time to get rid of these rules? How do you feel about that?
I think that when we're, just as I said before, that when you're delinking cases from hospitalizations, we get a much more manageable virus. And I think we have to really think about a sustainable approach going forward with the virus that's always going to be there. It's not going to be eradicated. It's not going to be eliminated. So I think we really have to think about individual risk tolerance and individual risk calculation, because we have tools to keep people from overloading hospitals. And that's always what, flattening the curve was about. And I think we're there in most of the industrial world where there's high vaccination and immunity rates.
Great information as always. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us.
Time to get a check on your morning news now. Weather.
Michelle Grossman is with us. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning to you both. And we are continuing to watch severe weather this week, a really unsettled week. We had a busy weekend in terms of tornadoes, and also we're going to see that today as we go throughout the afternoon hours. Taking a look at radar, you can see we're already seeing some storms, even seeing some snow on the backside of this low pressure system. That low pressure system is spinning right near Nebraska, also Colorado, and you can see that blue. That's where the snow is falling. Along the front, though, we're looking at heavy rain. That's indicated by the reds, the yellows, the oranges, and on the trailing end, we're seeing some lightning at this hour. So as we go throughout this afternoon and evening, we're going to be watching for 8 million people at risk for any sort of severe weather. Where you see the orange, that's your enhanced risk, and that's where most severe weather is likely. So Oklahoma City to Fayetteville, we could see hail as large as 2 inches. Tornadoes, some could be strong, some could be large, and winds gusting over 60 miles per hour. But really, this threat stretches from Texas all the way to Nebraska, over to Missouri, and parts of the Tennessee and Mississippi Valley. Now, as we go throughout tomorrow, we're going to include 6 million at risk. It looks like the threats tomorrow seem to be winds gusting to 60 miles per hour, damaging hail, but smaller, up to 1 inch. And the tornado risk is very low tomorrow. So that's good. That's the good news, because as we look towards Wednesday, it's almost a carbon copy of today. That threat stretching from Texas all the way to parts of Missouri, 6 million at risk. And again, we could see large hail and some tornadoes. Rainfall, we're going to be watching that as well, a flood risk due to excessive rainfall. Where you see those darker colors, the reds, the yellows, the oranges, that's where we're expecting the most rain. 2 to 3 inches of rain is possible. There's also fire danger once again, not only today, but tomorrow and also Wednesday. In the southwest, where you're seeing that hot pink, that's your red flag warning. So parts of New Mexico into the state of Texas. And we could see any sort of spark could start a wildfire. Again, that's today and also tomorrow. A seasonal split in terms of temperatures. So cold in the northern plains, Minneapolis, just 53. And as we look to the south, we're looking at 80s and 90s. Back to you guys.
All right, a lot to keep an eye on.
Yeah, 2 inch hail. Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. All right, thanks, Michelle. See you in a little bit.
Sure.
And now from sharp punchlines to celebrity appearances, this weekend's White House Correspondents' Dinner felt like a little slice of normalcy after 2 years of a pandemic.
Perhaps most noticeable, though, was the packed ballroom filled with unmasked guests, even as cases of COVID rise around the country. NBC News correspondent Josh Letterman has the recap.
For a few hours, it was like COVID didn't exist. More than 2,500 people, including President Biden, packed into a hotel ballroom. There were very few masks, no social distancing, but plenty of pandemic punchlines from comedian Trevor Noah.
Fauci thought it was too dangerous to come tonight. Pete Davidson thinks it's okay. And we all went with Pete. Okay.
Mr. Biden pointing out it's the first time a president attended the Correspondents' Dinner in 6 years.
It's understandable. We had a horrible plague followed by 2 years of COVID.
You guys spent the last 2 years telling everyone the importance of wearing masks and avoiding large indoor gatherings. Then the second someone offers you a free dinner, you all turn into Joe Rogan. Huh?
President Biden poked fun at his own dismal poll numbers, now in the low 40s.
I'm really excited to be here tonight with the only group of Americans with a lower approval rating than I have.
Noah taking on the president over inflation.
Ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything.
The president's decision to attend raising concerns as new COVID cases are popping up at the White House. At this star-studded event, guests had to show they were both vaccinated and tested.
I guess that's as good as we can hope for.
Mr. Biden on the dais unmasked, but skipping dinner and staying mostly socially distanced, as journalists and the politicians they cover raised a toast to the First Amendment.
To the journalists and their families, to the people and the elected representatives, to the United States of America.
Josh Letterman, NBC News, Washington.
You were there? Had a nice time?
I did. Yeah, it was nice. It was interesting to be in a room with that many people, but, you know, it was cool. It was a nice celebration of what we do, of course. Kim K was a big...
And, of course, then there's that.
...piece of conversation. Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson making their debut there, so that was cool.
Very good.
Yeah.
Glad you had a good time. All right, coming up on this edition of Morning News Now, it's one of Islam's holiest days. We're going to take a look back at the origins of Eid as millions of Muslims celebrate all over the world.
And shutting down the new COVID restrictions in effect across Beijing in the middle of a 5-day holiday after the break.
Muslims around the world are celebrating the end of Ramadan. It's one of the holiest holidays in the Islamic religion. So what is Eid al-Fitr? Well, we're joined now by the Imam Dr. Omar Suleiman, who is president and founder of the Yaqeen Institute for Islamic Research. Good to have you with us this morning. So let's start with some of the fundamentals. What does the name Eid al-Fitr mean? And there's a reason why the date changes every year, right?
Yes, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. And Eid al-Fitr is one of two Eids. The word Eid in Islam means annual festival, and we have two of them. One of them comes after our own sacrifice, our own month of spiritual connection and fasting, where the entire Muslim community, those who are able, abstain from food, drink, intimacy, and of course, doing that throughout the day, and then also praying throughout the night and reciting the Quran, a month of charity. It's a month of intense devotion. And so at the end of the month of Ramadan, we have one Eid, which is the Eid, the annual festival of breaking the fast. And after the sacrifice, which commemorates the sacrifice of the Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, that happens 2 months out, which also coincides with the Hajj, the pilgrimage to the sacred house that was built by Abraham, peace be upon him, and his son Ishmael. So both celebrations commemorate a sacrifice. One commemorates the sacrifice of the Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, where we have our own sacrifice that follows his. And then the month of Ramadan, which of course was a wonderful month, and a month where our community got closer to God and closer to each other. And, everyone is feeling, deeply connected. And for some of us, it's also welcome back coffee, because we get to have our coffee. I'm looking forward to having my morning cup of coffee and getting started with the day.
Enjoy that, most definitely. I know this is also often a celebration of gratitude, of new beginnings. So what are some of the traditions and customs that are common in different countries that celebrate? And I believe donating to charity plays a key role in that, right?
Absolutely. So gratitude is, of course, a central part of Ramadan, and it's a central part of this holiday as well. You know, in Ramadan, we were supposed to be as generous as we could to everyone and everything around us. On this day of Eid, everyone is supposed to be able to celebrate together. And so there's a charity that every able Muslim is to give so that every single Muslim in the world can feast today. And so everyone gives an amount of charity that can provide a meal today, and the entire community is to come out and to come to the prayer. And then, you know, after the prayer, to bond with one another, to visit one another. There are lots of festivals. There is a lot of food. There's a great display of cultural dress. And of course, as Muslims, you know, we are the most diverse faith community in the United States of America. And so you're going to see a lot of colors, a great vibe, great celebration. And we hope one in which people who typically don't get to celebrate are not left out.
Very quickly here, you know, COVID has complicated all celebrations, including these celebrations. Is it extra special this year?
Yes, because obviously, you know, we can come together this time. We can, you know, practice this great act of worship together and be side by side. You know, our Eid is a day of lots of hugs, lots of visitations. So having less restrictions certainly does mean a lot more to us. But also, I think that this Ramadan, you know, we felt a great connection to our God and to our community, right? And so you have this idea of people that got to come together for a month and spend time together for a month, you know, shoulder to shoulder in prayer. The mosques are the most crowded this time of the year than any other time of the year. Mm-hmm. And so I think that because this has such togetherness in it, you know, embedded within it, it's just wonderful for us to be able to come together once again. And we hope that that spirit of generosity is conveyed to the neighbors of Muslim communities around the country. And you're also able to join in with the feast.
All right. Imam Dr. Omar Suleiman, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
And coming up, a former athlete accusing a top coach of abuse.
I've so badly wanted to message some of these parents saying, please get your kids out of there.
Up next on Morning News Now, her story and her fears that she's not alone. Plus, what an NBC News investigation found about accused coaches still working in their sport.
Welcome back. In China, the 5-day-long Labor Day holiday began yesterday, but it was hard to find anyone celebrating in the capital city of Beijing. That's because of strict new COVID restrictions. They were introduced across the city yesterday as officials hope to prevent cases from surging like they did in Shanghai. NBC News foreign correspondent Janice Mackey-Fair joins us now from Beijing. Hey, Janice, so what is the scene like where you are in the capital city?
It's quiet. It's not being called a lockdown, but in many ways it does feel like one. There are tightening restrictions almost every day. Schools are closed, movie theaters are closed, as well as theme parks, restaurants. You can't dine in. You can only take out or have delivery. You need to show a negative COVID test to get into a public park or to take the transit. And there is this daily mass testing campaign, a dragnet. 20 million people having to test multiple times. In my district, we're needing to go every day now. They're not finding a lot of cases. Still fewer than 400 cases have been found despite millions of tests. But officials are adamant that they're going to find every single one. There's still a lot of concern here that a wider citywide lockdown could be coming. And that triggered some panic buying at stores last week, despite assurances that the city does have enough food. But a lot of people saw what happened in Shanghai, the shortages there, the chaos there, the lockdown there still in its 5th week. And people certainly don't want to see a repeat of that here.
Right. Janice, what is the reaction from people, especially because of this holiday this week?
People are uneasy. They're disappointed. There are still areas around the city that are locked down. What happens under zero COVID is that whenever a positive case is identified, the whole neighborhood is locked down. So you get metal fencing that goes up, sealing off buildings. It means in most cases people are allowed out of their homes, but they're not allowed out of their apartment compound yard. They have to go for regular testing. And so this is happening in pockets all around the city. So that's creating some anxiety, and just the sense that the mass testing keeps continuing, and the fact that the government has said that it will continue until they feel they have the outbreak under control. In Shanghai, the cases are beginning to decline, and some people are being allowed out of their homes, but there are still a lot of restrictions that are in place and little expectation that normal life is going to return anytime soon.
And Janice, you mentioned that they are focused on sort of rooting out these cases and finding them, but is there any sign that China's zero COVID strategy might change at some point? Does it seem like it's working? Does it seem like something else could happen?
It's less a matter of it's working and more a matter of when the authorities, being China's leadership, chooses to change the wording or change the policy. We're not going to see it dropped anytime soon. Politically, there is a lot at stake. China's government has invested everything in zero COVID. They believe it shows that it's a good system because the cases were largely contained for the better part of 2 years. It's why they're taking the approach that they are with these latest outbreaks, even though we know the Omicron variant is that much more transmissible. As well, toward the end of the year, there is a very important political party Congress where Xi Jinping is expected to secure a third term in power. So there is the sense that nothing is going to change before then. Maybe early next year, we might see some easing up on restrictions.
All right, Janice Mackey-Frayer, thank you so much. Now, for most athletes, the relationship they have with their coach is a bond that pushes them to be better in their sport. But for Taekwondo practitioner Mackenzie Lesh, it was overshadowed by alleged abuse.
NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk spoke to Mackenzie about her experience and the efforts to have these coaches banned from sports.
In 2012, Mackenzie Lesh was dedicated to Taekwondo. She had an eye on the Olympics.
I was so determined. I thought about it every day, every second of every day.
She trained with a top coach in Missouri, Thomas Harden.
He had this friendly persona and everyone loved him. I admired him so much because I wanted to be the best.
But when she was 9 years old, she says Coach Harden's behavior changed.
He was grabbing my butt while he was picking me up and I was like, this is weird.
Did he become more aggressive with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at his house especially, he would go under my clothing when he would pick me up.
Mackenzie says she kept the abuse a secret for 3 years until she couldn't take it anymore.
Then I ended up texting one of my best friends at the time saying, I don't know what to do, something's happening to me and I can't tell anyone.
Her mom, Karen, went to the police. Harden was not criminally charged and denied the allegations, but a Missouri Children's Division report found that Harden touched and fondled Mackenzie. Karen also turned to the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, an organization founded after the USA Gymnastics scandal involving disgraced doctor Larry Nassar. Safe Sport, which can ban coaches even without a criminal charge, banned Harden from coaching athletes in any Olympic program and put his name in their online database.
I was like, yes, now finally something's going to be done so that people know that here is someone besides the mother of the survivor saying he shouldn't be around children.
What effect did that banning have on his career?
Absolutely nothing.
Today, Harden still works with kids, coaching in his own studio. An NBC News investigation found he's not the only coach banned for alleged sexual misconduct to still be working in their sport. Out of the over 1,600 coaches banned by Safe Sport, at least 20 continue to coach minors. Safe Sport CEO Jerice Colon says there is only so much they can do.
We do our best to investigate those allegations and remove people who shouldn't be part of sports from participating. Unfortunately, organizations across this country don't have to listen to that.
Colon hopes athletic organizations will follow Safe Sport's lead.
I would love to see where schools, universities, local recs and park, youth serving organizations are coming to say, this is the standard that we are all going to live by, and we're making sure that our kids are protected at the same capacity.
Harden did not respond to requests for comment. 10 years later, Mackenzie worries about the children he coaches.
I have a few times looked up like his studio and like people who are training there, and I've so badly wanted to like message some of these parents saying, please get your kids out of there. I don't want anything to happen to them. I know who he is. I know what he's done.
Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
Such an important report there. Now coming up on Morning News Now, round 2 in the historic fight between Amazon and union organizers.
We're going to take you to Staten Island, where the ballots are being counted in a second landmark labor election. What the results could mean next.
Welcome back this morning. Labor organizers are hoping to score another historic victory over Amazon, the nation's second biggest private employer. 1 month after a warehouse in Staten Island voted to join the Amazon labor union, a first in the company's history, a second warehouse in the same borough in New York has voted on unionizing. NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton joins us now from Brooklyn, where these votes are being counted right now. Hey, Antonia, good morning. So help us understand the stakes of this vote. Put it in context for us.
Good morning, Savannah. The stakes are really high, and that's for people on all sides of this union fight. For Amazon executives who are watching this vote closely, and for the employees, many of whom organized to make this vote happen. It's really come to represent so much more than just one warehouse on Staten Island. This is really about a question of, are we at the precipice, at the beginning of a new revitalized labor movement? And our Amazon employees, many of whom are very young and incredibly diverse, are they at the front lines of all of this? And the question really for Amazon executives was, that first warehouse that unionized about a month ago that you mentioned, was it a fluke or was it a sign of the future? And so people are going to be watching this vote very closely today, and in particular because this warehouse is slightly different from the first. It's smaller. The employees tend to be a bit more spread out. Many people think if they're able to organize this warehouse, that is going to be a positive sign for organizers, and it's going to make them feel more confident about organizing in the future.
And Antonia, how has Amazon responded in the lead up to this election?
Look, Amazon has made no secret of the fact they are not pro-union. They have fought this tooth and nail. They have spent over $4 million on anti-union efforts and consultants, according to financial filings. And they've given statements to the media, including NBC News, to the effect that they don't believe that unions are right for their employees. They've used language like, we want a direct relationship with our employees, implying that a union would essentially get in the way. Take a listen to some of our conversations, actually one particular conversation that we had with a worker out on Staten Island about some of what she saw Amazon employees do at her specific site.
They started these captive audience meetings where they literally stop production at the end of the shift for an hour at the end of each shift. We have 5 shifts per day. So they'd stop production for 5 hours a day just to pull every single person into an all-hands-on-deck anti-union meeting with the general manager of the building, giving some sob story about his family, and the vice president of HR, basically begging us to vote no. And, never in the history of Amazon have they ever stopped production to pull everyone into an all-hands-on-deck meeting. So they're really scared of us.
Other employees told us that managers at that site on Staten Island had treated them like they were robots. Some described feeling like over the last couple weeks, employees have been kept more separate, more isolated in the warehouse than they had been previously, that they felt that this was an intentional effort by managers there to make sure that employees couldn't talk as much and couldn't organize as organically, Savannah.
And Antonia, quickly before I let you go, we know Amazon's still battling the results of that first election on Staten Island. What's the latest with that?
That's right, Savannah. So they have filed numerous complaints, and that's against the NLRB. The offices are just behind me here where the vote is going to be counted. And there could be a hearing later this month. And in the event that Amazon's complaints, which essentially boil down to arguing that organizers acted unethically or really harassed or sort of forced employees to vote yes on this vote, that if they are able to bring sort of substantial claims forward, that they could end up overturning that vote. When you talk to Amazon labor union organizers, they tell you that there's no teeth to these claims, and they expect them to ultimately be thrown out, though. Savannah?
All right, Antonia, thank you so much.
Let's get to your financial headlines now, with Wall Street eyeing some key economic data this week that could send the markets on another ride.
Yeah, CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and more in our CNBC Money Minute. Hey, Silvana, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning. Yeah, well, Wall Street is looking to recover today after a brutal month in April. The markets sinking on Friday on continued worries about rising interest rates, inflation, and underwhelming earnings from tech giants like Amazon and Apple. The Dow dropping 939 points, bringing its total loss last week to 2.5%. The S&P 500 falling 3.6% on Friday, its worst day since June 2020. Meanwhile, the Nasdaq tumbling 4.2%. Closing at its lowest level of the year. The Dow and S&P are coming off their worst month since March 2020, while the Nasdaq has its worst month since the financial crisis back in 2008, down more than 13%. Top of mind for investors this week, the Fed interest rate decision on Wednesday and the jobs report on Friday. Qantas is in it for the long haul. The Australian airline is ordering a dozen special jets from Airbus to launch nonstop flights from Sydney to London starting in late 2025. The 20-hour trip to London will be the world's longest nonstop flight. Qantas will dedicate more than 40% of the seating to premium classes, and a bet that flyers will pay up to save 4 hours on the popular route, also known as the Kangaroo Route. Equinox members in New York will soon be able to pay for their workouts with cryptocurrency. The New York Post reports the luxury health club is expected to make the announcement later today. It's partnering with BitPay, a major Bitcoin and crypto payment service. Gyms have all but recovered from their slump during the pandemic. Equinox says sales more than doubled in the first quarter. Equinox has more than 300 locations across the country, but no word yet on whether the crypto payments will be expanded outside of New York, guys.
All right. Cool stuff there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Silvana.
Thanks, Silvana.
You got it.
Now, the future of Twitter has become increasingly unclear after the company accepted billionaire Elon Musk's proposal to buy the social media platform. The Tesla and SpaceX CEO has already used the platform to criticize Twitter, raising red flags for some users and regulators. NBC News business and tech correspondent Jolene Kent has more on the challenges that lie ahead.
In typical Elon Musk fashion, it took off with a tweet. On April 14th, the richest person in the world posted this: "I made an offer." More than 2 weeks later, and one so-called poison pill attempt by the board to thwart the sale, Twitter accepted. Twitter co-founder and ex-CEO Jack Dorsey endorsed his fellow billionaire, calling Musk the singular solution he trusts. If approved, Musk will take the company private, forking over $44 billion. And if the deal goes through, he would become the most indebted CEO in the U.S. However, the self-described free speech absolutist insists that owning Twitter, which now has 229 million daily users, is not about the cash flow.
My strong intuitive sense is that having a public platform that is maximally trusted and broadly inclusive is extremely important to the future of civilization.
But you've described yourself.
I don't care about the economics at all.
Instead, his focus is on what he calls free speech, saying it's the bedrock of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square.
Well, I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech.
He plans to add new features, making the algorithms open source to increase trust, defeating the spam bots, and authenticating all humans.
Having tweets sort of mysteriously be promoted and demoted with no insight into what's going on, I think this can be quite dangerous.
But some of his critics see Musk as the danger, pointing to his controversial tweets about white nationalism, unions, taxes, and beyond, questioning his ability to properly handle disinformation and toxic content, especially if he takes the company private.
Let's talk about the freedom of speech here. I mean, he says he's dedicated to freedom of speech. His critics say he's dedicated to allowing hate and violence to spread on the platforms. What's the reality here?
I think the reality only Musk knows. And I think when you look at Twitter platform in terms of hate, in terms of some of the horrific things that we've seen on it, I mean, there's potential here that it just invites more of a political firestorm for Musk.
And since his takeover bid, Musk hasn't stopped tweeting, from jokes about buying Coca-Cola next and putting the cocaine back in, to mocking Twitter's top legal and policy officer. He doesn't appear to worry about a new SEC filing that prohibits him from tweeting disparaging things about the company he's set to own.
How much is Elon going to infuse his values and his personalities into this company?
Well, quite a lot. You could see he has an opinion on everything. He uses it for marketing. He uses it for personal enjoyment. He uses it to troll people. You can see that all within a 24-hour period with Elon Musk.
Musk and Twitter have until October 24th to finalize the deal.
What does Twitter look like under Elon Musk in 5 years?
I think he'll take it public and within that time. If he manages to turn it around in a significant way and make it a great business, I think he'll take it public, and then he will declare victory and fly off to Mars, and then we'll never see him again.
Thanks to Joe for that report. All right, coming up, a special flight full of furry passengers.
We'll take you on board as dozens of lucky dogs make their way to their forever homes. That's next on Morning News Now.
We're back now with a story of determination that proves pretty much anything is possible. Jackie Hunt-Broersma just set an unofficial world record for finishing 102 marathons in 102 days, and she did it all with the support of a carbon fiber prosthesis in her left leg. The South Africa native lost her leg to a rare form of cancer, but it has not stopped her from running into the record books. Jackie set out to run 100 marathons when she started in mid-January, but after another runner broke the record, she realized she needed to run 102, just two more than I've done. On top of the record, she was able to raise nearly $70,000 along the way, money that will help other runners get the same type of prostheses that she uses. Wow.
I literally can't wrap my mind around that.
I know. It would take me like 102 years. Maybe I could do 102.
Yeah.
And even that, probably not.
No way. 100 every day running a marathon for over 3 months. That's crazy.
Unreal.
Wow. Amazing. Congratulations to her. Thanks, Joe. Now, the pandemic saw an explosion in dog adoptions. I was one of those people. But some areas of the country still have overcrowded shelters, while others can't seem to meet the demand for people looking for their new best friend. Well, the ASPCA has found a clever way to address this problem. A dog airlift, shuttling dozens of adorable pups across the country to new homes. NBC News Now correspondent Maura Barrett shows us how it works and introduces us to the 200,000th animal to be relocated.
In the unassuming small town of North Brookfield, Massachusetts, we met up with a convoy on a mission, a rescue mission, led by the ASPCA. Soon, a plane packed with 70 dogs touches down on the runway. The plane shuttling the animals from overcrowded shelters in Alabama and Mississippi to forever homes in the Northeast, possibly saving some lives.
Euthanasia is always a danger for shelters that are completely overcrowded and have no options. And there's still places in the South where there's not high quality, high volume, affordable spay-neuter available. And so because of that, there's more animals in the communities.
One of these furry passengers is extra special. Noah, a 1-year-old cattle dog Basenji mix, is the ASPCA's 200,000th animal to be relocated. He was found wandering in Wilmer, Alabama, and despite being alone for so long, hasn't lost his endless affection and curiosity. Noah's story is the culmination of over 1,200 dog airlifts like this one, 7,000 additional ground transports, and an army of dedicated volunteers donating their time. From the airport, the dogs arrive at Second Chance Animal Services.
They get whatever they need, spay, neuter, vaccine updates, and from there they are put up for adoption. And they usually only stay there 48 to 72 hours. These are very, very popular adoptions here.
Cheryl tells us the dogs changed their new families' lives.
We've had animals that have gone on to be service animals. We've had people that have gone through medical things, cancer, whatever, and that animal stood by them the whole time and was always there.
Oh my God, hi, hello. Marissa Molnay says she fell in love with that 200,000th dog, Noah, right away.
When we went into the back room, all the dogs were barking besides him. And that he just got off his bed and he just put his paws on the kennel, and I was like, okay.
She was able to adopt him that same day.
How have you guys been getting to know each other? So he comes to work with me every day.
Oh my God,
he loves to run around. Yeah, he's very sweet.
And on one of their first rides to the pet store, Marissa made a big decision.
You ended up changing his name, right? What prompted that?
I was looking at him and I just didn't get the Noah vibe. And then I said Bama, and he just kind of like tilted his head at me. And then I said, sold. All right, Bama.
With a new lease on life, Bama seems right at home with his forever family.
He's a special boy, and I'm very honored that I was able to get him.
200,000 animals.
That's amazing.
Flown that way. Very sweet. We love to see it. And our thanks to Maura Barrett for that story.
That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.